Greetings from St. Louis. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do a sunburst on this body that I cranked out. It's not perfect, but it'll be perfect enough. First thing you do is sand everything to where you want it. I'm going to use a machine sander, and I'm going to sand the hell out of this till it's good at 220. Before you sand it, however, you got to put the contours in there. All right, so we're going to sure form in those contours, which is kind of a lengthy process. So I'm just going to get to it. Okay, so this is getting close to where I want it with my trusty sure form. A little more shaping, and then I'm going to sand it to 220. If you run across any little dings like that before you do any stain or finishing, there's a trick you can do. You soak it in water and then hit it with a wet towel or a wet cloth and a hot iron. I'll show you the results. First, you hit it with some spray. Let it soak. I'd let it soak for about 10 minutes. Now that it's soaked there for a few minutes, hit it with a nice travel iron. Oh, don't be afraid, just let it. So you can steam that sucker. Alright, now then, you can hardly see it anymore. See that? Don't try that on a finished body. I usually do it twice, so let's hit it again. Let it soak. Okay, and then hit it one more time. Yeah. Physics. Once again, don't try that on a finish. Now look. You ready? Let's unveil. Look. Can't even see it anymore. Where was it? I don't even see it. It's like right there. That was a 1/8 inch deep ding. Now I can't even feel it. When that dries and I sand that, you will not even see it anymore. Onward. Okay, once you get the guitar body sanded to 220 where you want it, you got to do the yellow dye. I'm going to show how that's done. Step 1, cut up a couple of thumb sizes of turmeric root. Oh, and you throw a little ginger and acorns in there for flavor. Step 2, add some soy milk, milk, rice milk, cashew milk, whatever you like. Alrighty, make sure you use some black pepper. That helps seal the dye into the wood. And if you believe that, I have some used monuments available in the DC area. Next step, I lost count. Blend the bejeebus out of it. Slow to chop it up. Bring it to a simmer. That should do it right there. Check it out. Nice yellow dye. Step what have you is paint this yellow dye on the guitar. What do you think? I think that's nice and yellow. You don't really have to get everywhere, but if you do, it really will titillate your sensibilities. Plus, if you play this guitar, it's going to keep you from getting arthritis. All right, lay it on as thick as when you were talking to the guys about your first date. I gotta admit, I did help it out a little with some yellow stain. It was a little bit too streaky for me. I think the soy milk messed it up. Oh well, clear coat over the stain. Just a sealer. Simple nails, flip it over, and you got nice legs for it to stand on so it doesn't mush into your hammers and screwdrivers on your workbench. So now what I've done is just feathered some red in around the edge. And then here it is with the brown around the edges. Okay, so I haven't sanded it at all yet, because you want to keep that color. Now I'm going to slather a bunch of clear coats over it because it looks the way I like it right now. All right then, this is what it's starting to look like. As Bill would say, not too bad. More clear coats. Man, that is going to be a nice sunburst, if I do say so myself. Wow. So now at this point, I'm just basically sanding between like every 2 or 3 heavy coats. I'm sanding with 320 to just knock that orange peel down. All right, so yeah, moving along here. It's getting close to the final coat. A word to the wise. Hey, wait a minute. If you're wise, why do you need a word? Well, anyways, stay away from the edges except super light scuffing, because it's so easy to go through. If it's already shiny, why sand it? So this is just a preliminary light scuffing before I put another coat, probably one of the final coats. I'm using 320. And I'm trying to practice good sandpaper etiquette. If you've ever worked in a woodworking shop, don't just randomly rip pieces off. Fold them and take them off nice and square. Pet peeve number 4,343. So which would you rather leave for your fellow workers? This piece right here? Random rips taken out of it, or this piece neatly folded for nice sanding. So this is pretty much where I like it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to let this dry for a week, and then I'm going to try and buff it out. I'm going to start with like 1200 wet, but for right now it's looking pretty much nice, like I could buff that out. All right, so it's been drying a week or more, and now I'm going to wet sand it with about a 1000 or 1200 sandpaper. Some people use lighter sand or heavier grit, and some people use heavier grit, and you'll never get the scratches out. You gotta finesse the shine out of the lacquer. If you've seen my pick extractor video, you'll know what I mean by finesse. So yeah, here I'm just getting all the flat surfaces. I do the curved surfaces by hand. Right. What you're going for. You see, there's still some orange peel in there, so I just keep going until it gets to be just a nice dull gray, like a satin finish. So here's that dull gray I'm talking about. There's a tiny bit of orange peel right there and there, but for the most part it's a dull gray. A little bit of orangey peel there, but that's not even orange peel, it's water. A little bit there, and so that can be buffed out. Okay, got this all sanded out so that the orange peel is gone. Look, it's just this dull gray everywhere. Now, believe it or not, I'm gonna let it dry for another week. Yep, and here in Missouri right now, it's in the upper 90s to low hundreds, so it should dry. Maybe 3 or 4 days I'll let it dry, and then I'll start buffing it out with the polishing compound. Alrighty, onward. Here's what I'm using to buff this out. This and Stumax color tone rubbing compound. So check it out. Here's the compound that I just buffed out, and that is getting good. Let me go through 3 more steps with my lamb's wool buffer from my dear old long departed dad in his memory. All right, that is looking pretty damn nice. Good enough for who it's for, me. I will go in and tackle the edges by hand, the little spots in there. We can't get that with the machine. But that's looking good considering I wear big ass belt buckles and rings, and I'm going to scratch the hell out of it. And that, my friends and enemies, is how you do a sunburst finish. Is it perfect? No. And the community standards here on YouTube, the Ministry of Truth. By the way, that bridge was just for the video. The Ministry of Truth has decreed that I can't really say how many F-bombs I have left to give. See, I dinged that. There goes my F-bombs, my last remaining F-bomb. But there it is, and now all I gotta do is make a neck.